Imagine you're an alien civilization sending troops to Earth for a particular investigation. When you come to Earth, you see these animals, called humans, moving around in metallic cabins, watching each other on emitting discs, and flying around in light cylinders. It might seem weird, but what is your first thought?
Chapter 1. What aids humans in the task of survival?
One can easily make the argument that humans are one of the most prominent species of animals to ever walk the face of the earth. That is not because they're simply too strong physically, or can fly, or have an intrinsic ability to camouflage, as many other animals do, which helps them in the task of survival. But for humans, that ability that is so outstanding in evolutionary terms is their natural intellectual capacity.
What is it that they have used in order to become the most prominent species to ever walk the face of their planet? Is it just pure intellectualism? Or is it something far more deeper? A sort of setup, which works all the time when analyzing the natural world.
Chapter 2. Science.
Us as humans have developed the scientific method, the best tool for understanding the world around us. But how do we use the scientific method? How the scientific method itself is described in the eyes of scientists. Let's say you're an investigator at the scene of a crime. What do you do in order to solve the mystery? Well, you can start by examining the evidence. You can start by seeing around the crime scene and asking people what happened there. In other words, you gather as much as information from the observable factors that you can use. Now let's say this mystery is not a horrendous murder, is not a terrorist attack, or any other crime that you have in mind. But it's rather a simple event that is happening in the natural world, such as the appearance of the sun every morning and disappearance of it every night. You can start investigating the evidence that you can find from this phenomena and come up with a hypothesis or a guess about how this event had been going on. Now let's do a recap on our crime investigating scenario. Let's say you're at the scene of a murder. What you see is a middle-aged man who was bludgeoned to death. Now, based on the marks, you can expect and predict that the weapon in use was a hammer. In order to back your claim, you need to look for further evidence that supports your hypotheses. For example, you can look for hammers that match the wound pattern that you have on the victim. After matching the wound pattern with a certain hammer, you now have supported your claim successfully and came up with the correct murder weapon which the killer have used in order to bludgeon your victim. So the method that you used is to simply analyze the scene of the crime, look for clues, and after that making claims, which in this case was that the murder weapon was a hammer. After that, you were to make predictions that would back up your claim, that would support your hypotheses in the best manner. In order to do so, you matched the wound pattern with a hammer so that you confirmed your claim successfully that the murder weapon was in fact the hammer. So to summarize, what you have done was to predict the outcome of your explanation for an event, then putting that into an experiment and testing it to see if the result matched the happened event. This is basically how the scientific method operates in explaining the natural world. Humans have always observed the change in species throughout the years. Though they may not document it throughout their own lifetimes, but they can see the observed evidence by their prior generations. This fact led to the assumption of evolution by many biologists prior to Charles Darwin. But Charles Darwin after a lot of investigation on the Galapagos Island, came to the realization that evolution happens due to the abnormalities that certain species have for the environment that they live in. Charles Darwin, after observing the morphological differences in the seemingly same species, came to the realization of natural selection. He hypothesized that there must be some element to the species' physicality that contribute to their survival. After making predictions and testing his hypotheses for nearly 30 years, he eventually came to the realization that his theory of natural selection was in fact true. So the epistemological value of a theory should be far more than a law in the eyes of public when judging an idea in science. For instance, many dismiss the ideas which are labeled as theories, such as evolution by natural selection, as just theories, hence just guesses. Or many would go as far as saying that viruses are just a theory, gravity is just a theory, so that they're wrong, and they're not still law and they need more evidence to become law. But they will never become laws, they will always stay in the state of theory. So we can summarize the scientific methodology in 4 sections. First being your observation of the current event, which you have in mind, and then making a guess about it, which is the state of hypotheses. And after that, what you have is an experiment in order to prove or disprove the original hypotheses. If you succeed at proving your hypotheses correctly with an experiment without falling into categories of anti-science or pseudoscientific methodologies, what you have for yourself is a scientific theory. Examples of scientific theories are such as the theory of general relativity, the theory of quantum electrodynamics, the theory of evolution by natural selection, and the atomic theory or the cell theory in biology.
Wisdom and intellect are the most outstanding pillars of the human species which exist on the planet Earth. There's nothing unique about them except their consciousness and the fact that they're super smart in doing tasks and using their surroundings in order to achieve what they want. And the scientific method seems to be the prior tool that they use for exceeding in that area.